Number one, start with who you know. I tell people all the time to start with who you know. And they kind of look at me and they say, well, that doesn't sound like networking. I already know those people. I'm trying to meet new people. I say, yeah, I get that. But let's think about everybody you already know in your life. And let's think about how you met them. Most of the people you know in your life are people that you met either because you were close to them in proximity, meaning geographically you lived on the same street with them, or they went to the same school as you did, or the same college, or you worked in the same place, or in the same office, or even in the same org. Now that a lot of people are remote, they were people that were on your level, or your boss, or people who worked for you. You know people because you interacted with them in life. That's how you meet people. The second way you meet people is by getting introduced by other people. And that's how we're going to grow our network, because the idea being that most of other people you know in your life are people who were introduced to you by somebody you already knew. And because you already knew that person who was introducing you to them, you kind of trusted this new person, and then you got to know them and they became part of your circle. So when I say start with who you know, I mean you're going to talk about the people who have been in your life, or you're going to try to go back and you're going to reconnect with what's called dormant ties. Now, dormant ties is a concept that I first read about it in this book, Give and Take by Adam Grant. It's a number of years ago. And Adam Grant has written a lot since then, but this was one of his first books. And this was one of the first ones I read. And the idea was that there are givers and takers, but the point was this: in like chapter 2, he talks about networking, and he talks about dormant ties. And the concept was part of an MIT study in the early 2000s, where executives were asked to go back through their list of contacts, people they worked with in the past, people they knew, and reach out to those people, even if they hadn't talked to them in a number of years. And the executives were a little hesitant. They said, I'm not really sure that's going to work. I mean, I haven't talked to these people. They're going to be like, why is this person reaching out to me? They're probably not going to respond. And they were really surprised with the response rate. I mean, they were getting like 70-80% response rate from people who they reached out to. And it was a really simple message that they sent to these people, was just simply like, hey, we hadn't talked in a while. Would love to catch up. Something that simple was what they sent to these people that they used to work with. Now, again, they already knew these people. They had worked with them in some capacity. They knew them from their life somehow. They had their contact information, and they reached out to a bunch of them and said, hey, I'd love to connect. Not only did people respond, but they also had great insights and ideas. Now, these executives went to them and said, hey, I have this problem I'm working on. Here's what it is. What are your thoughts on it? And these people had great ideas. They had great ideas because they had moved on in their lives from the time when these executives had worked with them. They'd moved on and had new experience. So they had much more diversity in their experience that they brought back to these executives. And the executives were just shocked, again, not only by the number of people that responded, but by the insight they were getting. So it was a huge study in the effectiveness of those people we already know in our lives that we've kind of lost touch with. And that's why I say start with who you know. Start with those dormant ties, those people that you've interacted in with life and that sometimes cross your mind, but you never really reconnect with them. And that's what you want to do, is you want to focus on reconnecting with your dormant ties. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think of 10 people you know. Make a list, and you can do it online. You can do it in a notebook online, in a document. You can do it in a spreadsheet. You can do it on a piece of paper. You can do it in a journal. It doesn't matter. And I want you to think of your family and your friends and your coworkers from previous jobs and classmates from school and people in community organizations. And I want you to write down at least 10. There could be more. You could have many more people on this list, but I want you to at least get 10. And these are people who you know, who, if you sent them an email or a LinkedIn message or some other message on a social platform and said, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, I'd love to catch up, they would see your name, recognize it, and most likely respond. I just want you to think of who those people are right now. Okay, so think of all the people you've lost touch with. And sometimes I tell people with coworkers, think about what your office used to look like. And I know lots of people don't work in offices anymore. but we're going back a few years. So think back a few years and think, who do I know, right, that I've lost touch with, that I would really love to know what's going on with them, and put them on the list. This is step one. This is the first thing you're doing. So that's all I want you to focus on in step one, is start with who you know. That's number one, because we're going to use these dormant ties. We're going to reconnect with them, and we're going to jumpstart your network. So remember when I said people say, I don't know anyone, or I don't know where to start? This is where you start, because I can tell you, most likely, you know more people than you think. You're just not thinking of all the people you already know. So go through, spend about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, set a timer, right? Tell yourself, I only have to sit here and do this for 15 minutes, and start writing down that list.